We look at the likes of depression. A lot of young women have contemplated suicide, and most of the time when you obviously follow the history in terms of why they're suicidal, it has a lot to do with the abuse, either abuse at home or abuse from a partner. Your high blood pressures from excessive stress, anxiety, where we've had women in an instance where because they're in such a terrible abusive situation, and every time their spouse would come in, they would fear, even when they get to the shelter, if a door bangs, they have that kind of fear, so that anxiety and sleepless night, and just, there are small triggers, but health issues long term. So you're not just undoing psychological, you're also undoing a whole lot of health illnesses. It's individually tailor-made counseling and obviously other forms that we can help you with. And if we can't personally help you here, we will refer you. We work with other organizations like POA, and if we have kids that have obviously faced any childhood adversities through seeing their parents or their mothers being abused in this matter, we work with places like the Teddy Bear Clinic. We do work with professional psychologists also who will come through and help them step by step. And also if it is at the stage where somebody is already developed a mental illness, we have a network of doctors that can also assist them and help them either stabilize it or try and eradicate it altogether.
So violence against women is a global health problem. 1 in 3 women around the world experience physical or sexual violence. Some 35% of all women will experience either intimate partner or non-partner violence. Now, intimate partner violence is the most common type of violence against women, affecting about 30% of women worldwide. Now, whatever form it takes, violence against women can have serious long-term physical and mental effects. Now, violence and abuse affect not just the women involved, but also their children, families, and communities. Now, International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women is celebrated annually on the 25th of November. Now, this date marks launch of the 16 days of activism for no violence against women and children that will conclude on the 10th of December, which is International Human Rights Day. The 2018 theme is Orange the World, #HearMeToo. So today we discuss violence and women's health. We'll be joined in studio by a researcher from the South African Research Council, or SAMRC, a social worker from POA, and a survivor of violence that will share her experience with us. And we'll also be joined on the line from the United Kingdom by the Vice President of Artificial Intelligence of SAGE Foundation. Now, we invite you to be part of the show by asking the panel some questions or just sharing your views with us. The number to call is Johannesburg 714-6918 or 6919. You can also tweet us at SABC Health Talk or simply interact with us on our Facebook page, SABC Health Talk. So sit back, relax, and learn from this bumper show coming to you just after a short break. I'm Dr. Salom Taum, and this is Health Talk.
We are at the forefront of Africa's tech discussion.
We're already planning for the 5G spectrum to be licensed by 2020.
In Mauritius, for fiber migration, we had a strategy. On Network, we have gadgets, robots, and more.
We focus on investing in entrepreneurs and technology in emerging markets.
There's technology and social media news on Network with me, Spumelele Zondi, every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. and every Sunday at 5:30 p.m.
Sometimes it falls upon a generation to be great.
Global Citizen is calling on you to continue this legacy.
We can end hunger, gender inequality, and preventable disease. But it takes action. Tweet, sign petitions, send emails.
Ask world leaders to make meaningful commitments and join a global community dedicated to change.
Your actions could earn you tickets to Global Citizen Festival Mandela 100, hosted and presented by the Motsepe Foundation.
Imagine being abused by family members, boyfriends, and no support from the community, and end up living with an abusive partner. Well, this was a sad reality for Thembelihle Kunene, a young mother of 2 kids from KZN.
I've been in abusive relationships by my family members, and through rape, through abusive boyfriend, turned out to be the baby daddy. Yeah.
Abuse can trigger health issues that includes obesity, arthritis, mood and personality disorders. For Thembelihle, it led her to depression and to a point where she almost took her own life.
But I once had a depression whereby I feel like now I'm nothing. I couldn't even take off my clothes in front of everyone. I was so scared. There were some things that I couldn't do. I almost like committed suicide, but not really, because I felt like being a lady, it's nothing. And then at the same time, I had no one to tell. I couldn't tell anyone because there I was alone in my siblings. So when I looked like both sides, we were like, oh, I didn't have friends.
It took Thembelihle some time to finally love and accept her kids, as the kids would always remind her of the perpetrator.
I couldn't like love my daughter. Not love, but I couldn't take care of her, because every time when I see her, I see that person and I'll be like, maybe she was kind of a mistake or something. But then after coming here, I realized that I am a mother. I should be a proud mother and love my kids. Yes.
Thembelihle found a new home away from home through the help of Sheli Hlabane, the Center Operations Manager at Frida Hartley Shelter. She explains to us how the shelter was established.
The center was established in 1922. The dynamics were very different at that particular time. It was for promiscuous young girls who fell pregnant out of wedlock. And because it was such a big taboo at that particular moment, they needed a safe haven where the young girls can have their children without anybody knowing, and they would give their kids up for adoption and pretend nothing has happened. Obviously, fast forward to nowadays, it's not such a big taboo anymore. However, we've then decided not to have a niche and cater for different types of women who are abused.
The shelter is a non-profit organization that aims to rehabilitate and empower women to gain back their strength and to become active members of the community.
I think what sets us apart from other organizations is that we don't just offer sleep as an organization. Our mission, or aim rather, is to empower the women with the tools and the skills they need in order for them to become productive citizens. It would be such a shame if we just offer them roof, because then it's not helping them from the demons that have brought them into the organization. So we give them skills development, training, help them find employment, like I said, and help them transition to the outside world.
Thembelihle seems to be recovering well from depression, thanks to the counseling she is getting from the center.
But now, Cheryl gave me counseling. She helped me, took everything that was bothering me, because she could see that I am not that person who normally smiles and talk, no. But slowly, she was helping me to become the woman that I am today.
It is possible for victims of abuse to take steps to prevent the health effects of abuse, like doing simple things that makes them happy.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about, violence against women. And it's a great pleasure to introduce our guests. First up is Nobisa Shai. Nobisa is Senior Researcher at the South African Medical Research Council. Welcome to Health Talk, Nobisa.
Thank you.
All right. Next to Nobisa is Dipuo Tobejane. Dipuo is a social worker at People Opposing Women Abuse, formerly known as POWA. Welcome to Health Talk, Dipuo.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. And perhaps let's start with you, Nobisa. I see that within the SAMRC, there's a unit there. You're a senior scientist, and there's a unit focusing on issues around gender and women violence. Please just take us through, just explain how that is structured.
Okay. So the MRC is a parastatal, so it's created based on an act of Parliament. So we have a unit where we're working on the prevention of gender-based violence, as well as trying to create statistics in order to understand the extent in the country and therefore to influence not only policy but also response across South Africa, but we also have a footprint globally where we work with other countries or in building capacity in other countries on how to prevent gender-based violence or how to conduct studies that will help us to illuminate our understanding on the subject.
All right. So the POA, I'm sure some people know what POA is and, you know, what it stands for and so on. Hopefully. But just for the sake of others, just clarify what...
Excuse me, yes. Yeah. POA is an acronym for People Opposing Women Abuse. Yes, we are a non-government organization that caters for victims of gender-based violence, particularly women. Our programs are mainly focused on empowering women and girls, yes, who are victims of abuse and violence.
All right, okay. Yeah. So let's come back then to basics. And let's define exactly what it is that we're talking about. When we talk about violence, and we do understand that there's different forms of violence, I'd like us to please let's just break it down for the sake of our viewers. We talk about intimate partner violence, domestic violence. Just let's clarify all of these terms. When we talk violence, what are we talking about?
So I think all researchers and all practitioners across the world, we all subscribe to a definition provided by the WHO, the World Health Organization, which describes particularly women against violence being about threats or acts of harm which may take different forms, including physical, sexual, emotional, economic, and the different types of violence that you'd get there, for which we have concrete concepts that we understand. We have rape, we also have sexual assault, or we have sexual harassment that we could get in any place, whether it is in the home or in the workplace or in public spaces.
Right. The notion of domestic violence, are we still using that term, or many people still refer to this thing called domestic violence?
Yes, it is still relevant because it is a problem. It's a type, it's a form of gender-based violence. It's one of them. Domestic violence is one of them. It's any violence that happens in a domesticated setting where there's violence between a husband and a wife. Yes, so a boyfriend and a girlfriend, somebody with their partner, then we classify it as domestic violence. The intention is to cause harm. The intention is to cause manipulation and control from one person to the other.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. So I mean, I shared some statistics, in my introduction, but clearly this is not an area where we would know exact statistics or fairly reasonably exact. But I mean, coming from a research institute, do you perhaps want to share with us what you think the extent is of this violence against women in South Africa?
Well, there are various studies that have been done in South Africa, and they differ. So if you're looking at a national level, we do not have a composite statistics on violence against women at a national level, but we have different studies that have been done, for example, in provinces, which give us a range of women having experienced any form of intimate partner violence ranging around, say, 24 to about 30%. We have other studies that will show the different levels to which, for example, a combination of experiences of physical and or sexual violence, we would get statistics around 34-35%. So we need to conduct research at a national level to be able to understand that optimally, but we are not restrained by the lack of a national statistics, because we can see, for example, some of the studies where we have the police reports that are indicating women reporting on rape, women reporting on different types of aggression towards them or victimization. So, and we have shelters that also house women. We have different facilities where we get women who will be reporting on these different types of victimization. So we're not waiting for statistics, composite statistics at a national level.
Fair enough. So I'd like us to focus on the effect. I mean, because that's why we're talking about these things for now. But before that, let's talk about the science. Clearly, for physical abuse, the signs may or may not be there, but for some form of emotional or other forms of abuse that are not necessarily physical, you may not get the signs. Do you perhaps just want to give us a sense of how people can detect that there's some sort of violence taking place here?
It's quite difficult for people to detect because now the victims themselves find a way to hide the abuse that's taking place.
Right.
So it's quite difficult. But the normal or the most obvious, it's isolation. You notice that the victim doesn't do the things that she used to do before. Anxiety, they become anxious now and then. They go through depression, and they can be affected going through depression. Their outlook on life changes. The way they see themselves, the way they see life, their self-esteem, it's damaged. It's depletes as time goes. They lose interest in living, because now their lives are focused on pleasing the perpetrator, pleasing their abuser to ensure that, it doesn't continue, so their life now revolves around the abuser per se. Yes, those are the signs. Once a person starts not being who they used to be, if your sister now doesn't do the things that you used to do with her, she's always making excuses or she's not available now and then, you should, try to find out what exactly is happening.
Right.
Yes.
Do you perhaps want to add on to that? I mean, clearly it leads on, and this is why we're getting worried in terms of mental illness, depression, you mentioned, the whole notion of suicide. Yeah.
Other ways in which you could detect that there's something going on. For example, in an intimate relationship where a woman is constantly being put down, constantly being insulted by a partner, that should worry us that there must be something going on in that relationship. Those are the kinds of things that people sometimes ignore because they think that it's a private space, that no one should interfere in that situation. With children, it's what Dipuo has added, but I think also acting up is also another thing that I could add, whether it's an adult or a child, acting up and expressing aggression and anger, and even if it is not, it's not much contrary to how a person usually is, but the extent is the one that could get us to suspect that there's something going on.
Yeah.
And of course we're talking women, but clearly there's different age categories here, even going down to children. Perhaps you want to comment on that quickly?
Yes, of course. Children do get affected. And then children who grow up, experiencing or witnessing abuse happening, they're more likely to carry on with the behavior. For the female child, she's more likely to normalize that kind of behavior, and then for a boy child, he's more likely to become a perpetrator in future. And then they also get affected in school. Their schoolwork lacks, they show aggressive behavior towards their peers, like Usis Novisa said. So it doesn't only affect the women, it affects the children as well.
In fact, I think it's a good point to stop here. We're going to go for a quick commercial break. When we come back, we will continue a discussion on at least looking at the impact on violence against women, and somewhere along the show, towards the last or latter end of our show, we'll share with you some useful numbers for you to keep and use just in case you need to, or you witness violence against women. Stay with us.
Sometimes it falls upon a generation to be great.
Global Citizen is calling on you to continue this legacy.
We can end hunger, gender inequality, and preventable disease. But it takes action. Tweet, sign petitions, send emails.
Ask world leaders to make meaningful commitments and join a global community dedicated to change.
Your actions could earn you tickets to Global Citizen Festival Mandela 100, hosted and presented by the Motsepe Foundation.
We are at the forefront of Africa's tech discussion.
We're already planning for the 5G spectrum to be licensed by 2020.
In Mauritius, for fiber migration, we had a strategy. On network, we have gadgets, robots, and more.
We focus on investing in entrepreneurs and technology in emerging markets.
There's technology and social media news on Network with Ms. Pumelele Zondi every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. and every Sunday at 5:30 p.m.
One of the reasons why the public is frustrated about the pace at which their cases are being marshaled through the court system is that cases are brought to court before an investigation has even been completed or even started for that matter.
We deserve this right as indigenous people from Kolobeni.
Welcome back. We're talking violence against women and the impact on their health. And with us in studio is our guest, Nobisa Shai, Senior Researcher from the South African Medical Research Council, Dipuo Tobejan, a social worker from POA. And we're now joined by another special guest, Lorraine Manoka, who is a survivor of violence against women. And she's here to tell her story. Thank you so much for availing yourself, and welcome to Health Talk.
Oh, you're welcome. My name is Lorraine. As you said, my name is Lorraine. Like, I've been raped for 3 times.
Yeah.
The first rape happened back in 2009.
Yeah.
But my first rape, I didn't report it because I was afraid. I was still young by the time. Then my second rape happened back in 2012, where I was staying over.
So before we get to 2012, let's go back to 2009. You were still young at the time. And do you know, obviously, you know, somebody, is it somebody you know that raped you?
Yes, it was somebody that I know.
Okay, was it somebody that was part of your family, or is it?
No, it was not part of the family, but it was someone that we lived in the same street
right.
with, yes.
Just take us through the circumstances around what happened, or is it too old for you to remember the details?
No, I can, okay, for 2009, I can't remember exactly because I was still young.
Yeah.
And so what I can remember is for 2012.
Right.
It's more that I can tell about.
Okay. Let's talk 2012. What then happened?
2012, it happened like my mom was selling goods outside. It was around 5:30 in the later. Then I was picking the goods, taking the goods inside the house. I was busy on my phone chatting that time of Megxit. The guy came to me and grabbed my phone. So like, hi, can you please bring my phone? Then he ran, then I ran after him.
Did you know the person?
Yeah, it was actually my friend's boyfriend.
Right.
Then I ran after him, then we got to go in his room. Then I asked, can you please bring back my phone? Then he took the phone and throw it on the couch. I was going to take your phone. Then I went to take my phone on the couch. When I turned to the door, then she's like, how many times should I tell you that I love you? Girl, like, no, you're not the type of guy that I could date, and you're dating my friend, hey? Then say like, you're not my type. Then he started to slap me on my face. Like, okay, I didn't say anything. It was okay. And then he pushed me on the bed. Then he started to kissing me, telling me that he loves me. I said, like, no, I don't love you. You're not my type.
Was there anybody in the house at the time?
There was nobody in the house. It was a room. Then he switched on the music. It was so loud. No one would hear me when I'm screaming. And then he took off my trouser. Then he forced himself on me. Then I tried to push him. Then he overpowered me.
Yeah.
So I couldn't. Then he did what he wanted to do. Then he raped me. The reason we need to say he raped me, he put his penis inside my vagina.
Right.
Yes.
Without your consent.
Without your consent and without condom.
So I'm gonna obviously ask you about the 2 incidents. I know that I'll keep going back to the first incident. Did you report the first incident?
No, I didn't.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Any reason why you didn't?
I was afraid, and I had no one to talk to, to tell like what happened.
Okay.
And so it affected me a lot because it created anger.
Right.
Yes.
Let's give you a small break and talk about impact. I mean, she talks about this having affected her, and I'd like your comment in terms of the impact that violence against women. I mean, we can talk in general against, you know, in terms of violence in general, not necessarily focusing on rape, but certainly include rape there. Your views on, or at least your knowledge on the impact.
The impact. Okay, yes. The most common is that women tend to blame themselves for the abuse or the violence that they are exposed to. And health-wise, they stand a risk of being infected with HIV, STDs and all that, and they also stand a chance of being chronically, long-term, suffering from chronic disorders, long-term pains that don't go away. They emotionally, it just takes away their sense of being. Emotionally, it damages their sense of self, the way they see themselves. So which then, makes it even worse for them to step out and report what they are faced with. And yeah, psychologically, they can suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder following a traumatic incident such as rape or being violated physically. Yes, so the list goes on.
Yeah, and I mean, if it happens early on in life, it has more damaging long-term effects, yeah?
It does, and I think it also influences what kind of a person the young woman sees herself as, because the fact that she's unable to talk about it, or the fact that someone has had sex with her, has violated her, it gives an impression that she's damaged. And that's how social ideals make us to understand that if a child has had sex early, they are no longer, good girls, and those kinds of ideals would then influence how the young woman themselves sees who they are and what potential they have, and start undermining themselves and stigmatizing themselves even before they can hear what other people in the community or in their family say about them.
Before we get back to Lorraine, let's take Barbara on the line from Port Elizabeth. Okay, we seem to have lost Barbara. We'll come back to her. Now, Lorraine, let's get back to you now. What then happened after the second incident in 2012?
I was so moody. I couldn't even talk to my mom. I was staying with my siblings. Like when they talk to me, I was just being impatient, like shout at them. I always shout. Like I will shout at them, cry sometimes. Whenever they ask me what's wrong, I'll say like I'm okay, but I will be crying, hiding myself from that. But the more I don't talk about it, the more it was like it created more anger in me. And so I had to talk about it.
Did you report it?
Yes, I did report it.
Okay, just hold on, because I want to know what actually happened. Barbara is with us again. Barbara, welcome. Barbara is gone again. Something is happening with that line there. So you reported it to the police this time?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and?
And it took time, but finally I got justice. He was sentenced to 15 years.
Okay, and when was the sentence?
It was back in 2017.
Okay.
Yes.
So just tell us about the ordeal of having to go to court and face your perpetrator.
It was not easy. But at the end of the day, I had to do it, because the more I keep silent about it, is the more he's going to do it over again to other young girls. As much as I have younger sister, and so what if it will happen to her by him again? And so I had to stand up for other women to take him away from the community, because he was not good enough for our community to be around.
And then you said that you were unfortunate enough to experience a third incident.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
It was back in 2016,
right.
1 May. It whereby I was raped by my boyfriend's cousin.
So this is totally unrelated to the first two?
Yes.
All right.
Then the guy, what happened, the guy I was sitting, he came with a gun, pointed a gun on me, say, take off your dress. Like I say, oh no, stop, what are you doing? Why you always love playing with the guns? Like, I'm seriously. And he was seriously. Then he forced me to lie on my stomach. Then he pulled up my dress and pulled down my painting. And then he raped me. Then for that, it makes me angry whenever I talk about it, because the guy, he's out. He's still around. He was stalking me. He would just park his car outside my home. I wouldn't feel safe, but I just let it like, no, this is my life. I can't let him to control my life. I need to control him. then I need to face him to tell, like, whatever that you're doing, you've done it, but you can't do it again.
So this is the third?
Yes, it was.
So what do you mean that he's out? Was he arrested?
He was arrested. Fortunately, he spent only one night in jail. And so I felt that the time he was stalking me, calling me, coming and park a car outside my house, I went to the police station where I opened the case to tell the detective that this guy is messing up with my life. The detective told me that he has nothing to do because I don't have a proof.
So a lot of women go through these ordeals. Perhaps you may have a comment or two in terms of what Lorraine has just shared with us. Any of you?
Yeah, and it's very unfortunate. So a lot of rape cases, like in Lorraine's case, they get thrown out because there's lack of evidence.
Yeah.
And that also contributes to the emotional impact of the victim at that point. Because they'll tell you that, I mean, there's no enough evidence.
Yeah.
There's not enough evidence, so we can't prosecute the case. We can't continue with the case. We have to just let it go. So a lot of women go through this, particularly in cases of rape, domestic violence. Women get turned away. Go back home. Go talk to your partner and fix it, and talk among yourselves. Talk to the family, and So it's quite unfortunate. The justice system is somehow failing our women.
Okay.
So which also leads to women not reporting because they feel that there's no confidence in the justice system.
Okay. It appears we have Barbara back on the line from Port Elizabeth. Barbara, are you with us now?
Yeah.
Welcome, welcome.
I don't want to ask a question. I want to tell you something.
Sure.
I was abused, violently abused when I was married. I'm 73 years old.
Right.
And when I was married for 12 years, and in all that time I was abused. But now that I'm older, I suffer the consequences of what happened to me when I was being abused. And young women have got to take note that this can affect their whole lives. It's not a now thing. It's an ongoing thing that lives with them always.
Right.
You have broken noses, so you've got scars on your nose, you've got back problems because you've been thrown against the wall, you've got back problems in your neck because you've been strangled, and it's not easy. And when I went to family and I went to my church, they told me, but you married him, put up with it. Now, I mean, that's a long time ago. But I'm glad that this whole problem is being brought out and people are talking about it and asking to be listened to. But the police also need to take more action.
Right. Sure. Well, Barbara, thank you for such a sobering call, and I hope everybody else is listening. It's particularly what we're talking about, that the impact may actually be lifelong.
Yep.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Time for another quick break. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion on violence against women. Please stay with us.
Life can throw all sorts of surprises at you, often when you least expect it.
Sorry, Mom.
That's why it's important to have medical cover. Me? I didn't want just any medical scheme. I wanted a scheme that I could rely on, that I could talk to at any time, that I could afford. I didn't just get medical aid. I got medical paid.
Inspiring words from Otata. He also said, sometimes it falls upon a generation to be great.
We can be that generation. Global Citizen is calling on you to continue this legacy. So take action. End extreme poverty by 2030.
Together, we can end hunger, gender inequality, and preventable disease. But it takes action. Tweet, sign petitions, send emails, volunteer in your community.
Ask world leaders to make meaningful commitments and join a global community dedicated to change. You can help every child access a quality education and every person access clean water.
Your actions could earn you tickets to Global Citizen Festival Mandela 100, hosted and presented by the Motsepe Foundation. at the FNB Stadium on the 2nd of December.
It's going to be epic.
So be the generation. Take action now. See you there.
This is a space for every woman in South Africa.
I want to speak to the women who cannot walk a kilometer in this country without looking over their shoulders, without being groped or harassed.
I was not born like this. In 2011, I got stabbed by a boyfriend.
How many centimeters? How many centimeters long is the political will to end the scourge of violence against women, against children?
I was locked up in the room for 2 weeks.
There are measures, there are laws, there are policies. But these policies and measures and laws do not speak to these lived realities.
We must fight the culture of gender-based violence.
This is where young men must be taught that women are not their footballs. This is where young men must be taught to respect women.
Okay, welcome back. Our topic for today is violence against women, and we have our two guests, Nobisa Shai, senior researcher from the South African Medical Research Council, and Dipuo Tovejana, social worker from POA. And we're going to be joined on the line from the UK by Kriti Sharma. Kriti is the Vice President of Artificial Intelligence from the SAGE Foundation, if I've got that correct. Kriti, if you can hear us, welcome to Health Talk.
Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be on the show today.
All right. We're going to come back to you in a moment, Kriti. Let's come back to our studio here in Joburg. And just before we talk prevention, because here we're going to be focusing on prevention, to try and see if we can share with our public those issues that may be helpful in preventing, violence against women. But before that, let's talk a little bit about causes and risk factors for violence against women. Let's start with you.
So at the basic level, one of the reasons that why we have violence against women manifesting at all, first it is the tolerance that we have for violence generally as a nation. It is in how we use violence and how we bring up our children, and how we try to correct situations, how we solve conflict. And so at the basic level, it's the fact that violence is accepted as a means of either correction or expressing one's disapproval or anger.
Right.
And then the next level is that generally with women, there's this social perception that women should be dominated by men, that women should understand that there must be a man who is controlling them, from whom they must take instructions about how they should be, what they should do. And generally society holds those kinds of views that men are more superior than women. And at a practical level, if for example a woman gets married, she can't then question her husband when he does things that she doesn't agree with. Girlfriends, when they are young women who are dating men, that women must do what their partners say, because she has said, yes, I will date you, then it means that she gives him the right to have sex with her even if she doesn't want to. So it's those kinds of things. And even for example in the workplace, because he's a male manager, then I cannot stand up and say something that I believe is correct, because it means that I'm undermining his authority. So it's that a positioning of women as subservient and as inferior to men, and that also encourages the oppression of women in many different spaces. So that's what actually is the basic reason why we have this.
And I suppose the opposite is also true. The belief in men that they are superior and that they can do whatever they please.
So that's the secondary level. So So the social level is this idea where men are positioned, and then the individual men will believe that, and then society supports that. Then individual women will also believe it, and they will participate in practices that also encourage that positioning of men as superior and women as inferior. And so you see that being institutionalized, I mean, in how, for example, cases of rape are being handled. Because he is a man, therefore when a girl comes and says that he has raped me, it is her word against his, right? And there's doubt already because this girl put herself in a position to be raped, and so because she put herself in that position, she can't go out and accuse that man and say that man did it. So there must be something wrong with this girl because she's not the right kind of girl that society wants her to be. And he is always the right kind of man because he can't do any wrong. He can't just have sex with any woman because he is a nice, eligible man. And so why would he go out and have sex with a woman that without, her consent? And yet with women, there's always this doubt that we must always doubt whether what she's saying is true, whether she's not exaggerating it, whether she is actually saying and we problematize women in a space or rather in practices that are actually conducted by men. And that is the problem that we have with society at the moment.
No wonder we have cases where women always, feel a little inferior and they doubt themselves. They always feel that they may perhaps have played some role in encouraging some action. Perhaps you want to, take that a little further?
Yes, because they were socially constructed that way from a very young age. Boys, violent behaviors accepted. He's a man, so let's accept it. If your husband violates you or abuses you, you go home to your mother to report, Mama, I'm going through this. She'll tell you that that's how it is. So you accept it, then you go back. You tolerate that kind of violence. While at the same time is affecting you, but that is not spoken about. You have to tolerate because you're a woman. You can take it. So it's the way society constructs us, both males and females. So we accept that. We raise our children in that way. So it continues. It becomes a generational thing. Yes.
I guess the next logical question then is, how do we then change these societal attitudes? How do we prevent incidents of violence against women ever occurring in future? But perhaps let's give this time to Kriti Sharma. Kriti Sharma is joining us on the line from the UK. And Kriti, thank you so much for availing yourself to participate in this very important show dealing with issues around violence against women. And I believe that you have developed an app called Rainbow that perhaps may be useful in helping prevent violence against women. Please take us through that.
Hi, yes, thank you so much for having me, everyone. Rainbow is designed to be a companion for women who are either at risk of facing domestic violence or are already going through domestic violence and abuse. And it came from the idea that in the social media or on our online lives, on Facebook, on Instagram, everything seems to be fine. People are always posting happy pictures of holidays and beautiful food, and everyone seems to be has no issues at all. But except that it's not the reality. Many of us are not fine. We are hiding issues in our personal relationships around domestic violence, where 1 in 3 women are facing violence at home. So we decided to make it easy for people to say that they're not fine, that they're not okay. And Rainbow is a companion that gives them advice using social media. So it lives on Facebook Messenger, and you can talk to Rainbow like you would talk to a friend, except that Rainbow is not human. It's a machine. It's powered by artificial intelligence. It's kind of like a Siri or an Alexa. And behind the scenes, Rainbow gives you non-judgmental, unbiased information. It just helps you understand early signs of abuse. It helps you take action or connect to services such as Power and Command Center in South Africa. And it really makes that first step of saying that you're not okay, that you're suffering in silence, a lot easier. And we believe that in the digital world that we live in, that access to technology, whilst not everyone has it, there's still a significant number of us who are using online platforms, that should become a fundamentally important place for people to reach out open up the conversation around domestic violence and ask for help.
All right. So I believe that this product was launched recently, as recent as about a week ago here in South Africa. And tell us a bit about the partnerships. I believe that you, director of the SAGE Foundation, who did you partner with in the African continent in you know, getting this product through?
Yeah, so SAGE Foundation are the first donors and the financial partner and founding partner of Rainbow. We also work with Soul City Institute of Social Justice in South Africa, who've been working for women's rights and violence against women for several decades. And we, together with Soul City and SAGE Foundation and myself, we brought the best technologies in the world, the same technology that powers Google search or Facebook feeds, and brought it to solving a very difficult issue, domestic violence, using artificial intelligence. And as you said, it was only launched just over a week ago, and we already have over 50,000 conversations that people have had with Rainbow. And these include things like asking questions. Is it normal for my partner to check my phone? Or concerns around alcohol-related abuse, or questions that they might have about non-sexual, non-physical forms of violence, such as emotional abuse. This response to Rainbow in South Africa has been phenomenal, with over 50,000 conversations, way higher than even what I had expected. And I think it's a great way to open up, make it easy for people to ask for help without feeling judged, without feeling stigmatized or embarrassed, and getting the advice that has been prepared by some of the best experts in the field and is delivered to them on their phones. Okay. And to access it is really easy. You just go to www.highrainbow.org and start talking to Rainbow.
Okay, just go through that,
www.highrainbow.org.
highrainbow.org. Well, Kitty Sharma, thank you so much for sharing that with us, and we certainly will encourage a whole lot of our people around, at least our viewers of this program, at the very least, to access this program, and thank you so much for sharing that wisdom with us. Okay, back to our two guests here in studio. Prevention. We've spoken about one aspect of prevention. We've heard about that beautiful app, you know, Rainbow. I suppose we still need to understand a bit more because it was just recently launched. But how about practical tips that we can share with our viewers in trying to prevent violence against women? I know it's a very broad question, but we can tackle it in bits and pieces.
As a research organization, the MRC doesn't have exactly practical tips, but just carrying on the conversation around social norms that influence the perpetration of violence against women. There are programs that are being developed in South Africa. The President referred to them a couple of weeks ago at the GBV Summit. These programs are meant to work with communities, individuals, couples, and also parenting programs that have been developed, that have the potential to work, and that we should explore as South Africa how to engage people in conversations, and particularly critical reflection on why they hold the ideas they do and what they can do to prevent.
Okay, I'll tell you what. We're going to continue our talk because this is very, very important. But time for a quick commercial break now, and we're still going to share some useful information with you, and seeing how we can assist potential victims of crime, and that we're going to do a bit later on. And there's the information that we've displayed. Some numbers, useful numbers: Akiso 24-hour helpline. Family and Marriage Society of South Africa, or FEMSA, and that's the 9th line Johannesburg, and the Lifeline providers 24 hours counseling. The number to call there 0861 322 322, and of course we will keep that, and that still shows POA. We have a representative of POA here. You can call that number 083765 1235, or simply visit their website. And then the rape crisis, for people that have been raped, Johannesburg, 6424345. Then everybody knows the SAPS, 10111. And of course, one very important one, we've spoken a lot about mental health. You can call SADC at 011-234-4837. All right, we're going to go for a quick commercial break. When we come back, we wrap up our discussion on violence against women. Please stay with us.
On Media Monitor, we leave no stones unturned.
We don't have shared principles when it comes to media freedom.
From the integrity of journalists to accusations of fake news.
If anybody comes with an alternative view, he starts referring to it as fake news.
We also look at the safety of our journalists while covering stories on the field.
This is something that we're faced with daily, from journalists who say they've been physically or verbally attacked by community members.
Watch Media Monitor Sundays at 9 a.m.
Hanover Park is known to be a playground for gang members. Several pupils failed to attend classes due to gang shootings.
The impact of these gang wars is that we find that learners stay away from school.
There's a lot of disruptions, but yet I try to come every day to school so that I can have a better future.
As an education department, which is not our primary mandate to address crime, we do what we can to ensure that our learners and teachers are safe in schools.
In pursuit of good results for a better future, these learners have all come here to what is commonly known as study camps. They bath, eat and sleep here. Learners believe that their sacrifices will bear fruit.
Once we give the best of our results and we get enough chance to spend with our teachers.
The local business people are giving us food, are supporting us big time.
This year we must have 100%.
Okay, welcome back and thank you so much for staying with us. We're discussing violence against women with our guest, Nobisa Shai from the SAMR. And of course, we joined back by Lorraine Manoka, and we still have Tipua Tobejane from POA. We spoke earlier about prevention and we heard about that beautiful app and so on. But support is something that is quite important in general for either those families in general that may be at risk or families that have people that have already been affected or people directly. Let's talk support in this phase. It starts from parenting. Your comment?
With parenting, parents need to be provided with the skills to teach their children behaviors and attitudes that would help their children not to be perpetrators and also not to be victimized. I know it sounds simple the way that I'm saying it, but there are various programs that work with mother to child at the infancy and pregnancy and infancy level, but also for adolescents in schools, for young children in schools. And those programs can be tailored to help support families in order to be able to come up with ideas and live in a way and bring up children in a way that would help their children and themselves to be able to help each other build understanding, build communication that would enable children when they're being violated to actually be able to speak up and talk about what they're experiencing.
Okay. Maybe let's get to Lorraine. Lorraine, I mean, you have experienced quite, 3 traumatic events in your life. And certainly for what you've experienced, some sort of support was necessary. I believe that you went to POA to get some form of support. Just tell us about that.
I got support from our Tipua. She's here. She was nothing but good to me. She was very kind. She was there to listen to me. Whenever I want to talk, I could go and talk to her. From my family, I didn't get that much support. Like the very important thing is to get a support from the family to understand, like, whenever if I've been raped, I didn't call that rape. I was raped. I don't know what the guy was thinking the time he raped me. So the most powerful thing is to get a support from the family.
Right. Very important. From Paul's perspective, let's talk about support that is given to people like Lorraine.
Lorraine, yes. Okay, so we provide psychosocial support in forms of psychotherapy, forms of counseling, one-on-one counseling, ongoing. Like Lorraine, we had a series of sessions with her. There's also support groups that are in place for victims. Court support we give to our survivors. We also have shelters where we place our women in cases of when the need is there to remove them from that toxic environment so that they can get counseling together with their children. They go there together with their children so that they can get ongoing counseling support. You know, we link them to skills training because the main aim is to empower the women so that they can be able to make informed decisions so that they can get healing. Remember what Barbara said, she's telling the truth. Healing is an ongoing process. The effects, you know, are long term and you need constant support, and you know, it's a process. So we are there to walk in that journey with our survivors. So we are appealing to women to come forward to seek assistance because we are there for them.
And by the way, just in the last 10 seconds,
yes,
help is out there for the perpetrators as well, isn't it?
Exactly. For the perpetrators as well. If you feel that you've got an urge to harm somebody, to cause harm to somebody else, you can't control your emotions or whatever, whatever it may be, please come forward. We're not going to turn you away. As much as we work with women, if men come to our offices, we do attend to them and refer them.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time in this. I wish we had all the time. Thank you so much for sharing this with us, ladies, and especially to you, Lorraine, for being so brave that you shared your story with us. And thank you so much, and I hope people watching this at least will pick up a tip or two about this. Okay. And for you at home, thank you so much for staying with us. We're back on your screens again in a week's time, same place. And until then, please do take care.